The
Okay. The building project committee meeting is called to order. This thing was posted as required by law. Everybody's here today. We'll stand for a moment of silent prayer and pledge allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just so everybody's aware, the meeting minutes will be posted on the next meeting and we'll approve them next time. So for discussion for tonight, we'll review the government sector security.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You might recall from the last meeting that we had, there were some questions about security and entrance to the building, and we got two kind of prongs going forward. So first of all, I'd like to review in your packet was the latest plan set for the building, and up on your screen when it actually gets to it, you'll see the first floor in that public lobby that is at that eastern location of the building. We work with the sheriff's department to come up with some concepts up there, what that entranceway could potentially look like going forward with security going through. You may recall that the committee looked at having everyone that comes into the building go through security. Was the kind of the nomenclature what you guys are looking for. So we came with a plan for that. Again, it definitely needs to be tweaked and maybe modified a little bit, but in generally speaking, people would come in, the main entrance doors would go potentially mostly right, go through security, they'd be able to entrance into the Justice Center. Very similar to how they do now. They come into both sets of doors first and then take a right hand turn and go through security. So not much difference there. We'd also have potentially a second station to the south or to the bottom of your page there going forward. So people could go through the northern entrance, get through security and go through there. Potentially on slower days, instead come curve around, go back around to get back into the clerk and register deeds, treasurer, and the rest of the building. However, on voting days, using this hallway that Supervisor Krebs had come about putting it in, and it actually did work in that area. You'd have people that would be coming in through this way, kind of basically east-west direction, going and voting, coming back out. Again, the doors out of the voting area would be kept, closed. Make sure people when they come into voting and be able to get into the Justice Center or the Government Center without going through security unless there's an emergency to get out through the southern set of doors there, right back out the entrance. And so that we might need a secondary security station that would be utilized for potentially voting purposes. We're still vetting all that out. The Sheriff's Department just first saw that last week, Wednesday, I believe it was. So we still got to work with them to vet everything out along with the rest of the plan as well. But in the highest of levels, it seemed like that would be something that would function well coming into the area. And so with that, certainly open up any questions you might have as far as how this would potentially work. And areas, Sergeant Hennis, who's been working with us on security and has been working security in the county for several years. I don't know exactly how long, but he's also in the audience here, can maybe answer some questions you may have as well.
One quick question I have, Scott, is so during the voting days, right, when people can walk through without going through security, would we have to have somebody in that lobby to make sure nobody would?
Yes, in the lobby stanchions, where this area is right here, and this location here is where the deputies would sit in that location, or we put up something, in this area, something in this little area right here to make sure that that's the only location that you could go to. And we'll leave it up to the sheriff's deputies on how secure they would need that to be.
Sure.
If it's just a matter of putting up little ropes like you see over here, or if they think there's something a little more substantial during voting, we would work with them and they'd have to help us decide on what that actually looks like.
Just have a hall monitor or something, right?
I would think something there to delineate not to go that direction would be warranted. Again, as easy as ropes like that, ribbons, or something more substantial, not just on voting days, pulling out some some plywood and plastic and throw it in there to make sure they can't just easily, jump it. So again, we work with the sheriff's department to see what they would feel most comfortable with. We're also looking at the option if the, because they voted the PAC, they do right now. If the PAC moves, we have one, if you decide to move the PAC over the north side, where they have one big room, or they have two rooms there to vote for, and then they don't have to come here to vote. But definitely that even jury days, the jury could go in that hallway and down that hallway as well.
Yeah, the one issue with like putting plywood up is the rest of the government center is open as well that same day. So if people would want to exit from the other government center, you got plywood up, they wouldn't be able to get through.
Well, no, they will, that there'd be a second security access right here, so people would come in the doors, go to the south. And go into the government center through that direction,
And then get out the same way.
and they can break back out the same way.
Gotcha.
We're not talking, 1,000 people coming into the government center
I
on a given day, but they'd be able to exit and enter, or again, if a security guard is at either one of these locations to quote unquote let people out,
Mhm.
might be an option too.
Yeah,
Again, we haven't spent a lot of time vetting this
Sure.
yet, correct?
Excuse me, Chair. So for clarification, my apologies if this covered last week. So looking at the one photo, we got staff entrance on the west and then shifting a public entrance to the east, correct?
Yes,
There's an existing entrance on the south public. Is that going to be closed?
correct. Right by the main entrance to
Yeah.
the southwest corner, yes.
Yeah.
There would be a break room in that location. It would be card access, just like the western door. So county board supervisors have to use their key to get in, just like staff would have to use their keys to get in. Those two locations.
Any other? Oh, go ahead.
I'd say to that end, I just, thinking of the future, we talk about traffic and people coming in, going on Washington Street, Highway 33. Going east and turning north, is there going to be any turn lanes at some point, or are we going to monitor traffic? Because that can be a cluster. At least, on the west end, you have the stoplight. But if people are going east now, and instead of, parking in the staff parking now, future is public parking, is that going to create traffic challenges? That's the only thing that came to my mind when I saw this map.
And trying to bring up the map right now, as you see, and it's only loaded about an eighth of an inch of the entire map, and now I got the little blue circle of death on me. But
Just
yes,
sounded
we-
like your comment about the potential security and having a, temporary foreboding, et cetera.
Correct.
Ebb and flow of traffic, we'll get a feel for that once things are changed and if things need to be modified in the future.
Yes, if you, I'm sure you're all familiar with our parking lot out that we use right now, the west one, it's got a lot of public. The first row is for the public to utilize. Generally speaking, that's typically not too full. We don't have, typically speaking, the 20 or 30 cars there at any given moment. So we're anticipating a large increase in traffic volume coming that direction. But something we certainly monitor, and I'm sure the city of West Bend will help us monitor that as well.
Supervisor Slave.
The west parking lot sometimes fills up when there's election stuff going on, or when we're doing an audit, or when they're doing canvassing.
Yeah.
What areas will that stuff happen? I assume down by the clerk's office, maybe in the jury assembly room, or have we thought about that?
Yes, we potentially have a room that's, we talked to the clerk about that, right next door to here. Would be a room that would be potentially utilized for that purpose. There's also 2 conference rooms if the clinic doesn't come in right across the hall that are currently right here. Could be utilized for that purpose as well. So they would have a couple different options. There's a very small room in the clerk's office, but that's only for 2 or 3 people, potentially 4. But now the overall plan is back up on the screen. It's worked its way through. So yes, we'll be looking at parking, and we'd be talking to the sheriff's office too about how to secure this area for parking as well, for deliveries and stuff like that. So we've started having those conversations as well. But generally speaking, the public would be where Schmidt Road currently is. And there's a cul-de-sac down there, would be additional parking that's a little bit closer, especially on jury days. Security is gonna be the biggest day on your east side of the building, more so than any standard day, or outside of voting.
And what you went through the last meeting with securing the west parking lot. I've started to pay attention when I come, you know, there's several blocks where I know the sheriff's deputies turn so they can go straight down. So it'll just require some adjustment for us and staff.
Yes, and the last time we talked about Fair Park School ending, in several years, 2027, so.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the security?
So I want to get, there's another part of security, Mr. Chairman, as well, and that was,
Okay.
what is, brought into, the building. And so within your packet as well was, Supreme Court Rule 68, is in your packet, and I can bring it up as well. I copied a couple pages. I want to thank the sheriff for getting this to me. It was asked who, controls what comes into the, Justice Center. And there's a Supreme Court rule on there, 6805. It actually sets the Security Facilities Committee meeting. I sit on that as far as from the county executive appointee or designee. The county board chair is on that. You'll see the sheriff, district attorney, the chair is on there for facilities maintenance department. Also, they are the people that help decide on and coordinate what is allowed and not allowed through court security. With that, we also obtained and I gotta find it here, I put it up the screen policy, was in your packet as well. And so, the question came up, well, what is allowed and not allowed, inside Justice Center security, and in that packet, goes through the list of, items that are and are not allowed. And so the question was, well, who determines security in that building? And it's obviously very clearly written out and spelled out who that is. This building, it would, potentially, and I would argue that it would be the same set of rules coming into either building. And for that, it's easier for the people that are coming in, especially with only one security checkpoint going, which location are you going? They don't have to ask that every single time and then monitor to make sure that's the area that they're going. And so I think it's also a good policy if you look at the items that are on there, the ones that are allowed in a building and potentially not allowed in a building. And so the county board does a representative on that. The county executive's office has represented on there, obviously the sheriff and district attorney, so to come up with that. I guess if that is not something that we're amenable to, I guess it's something we can open up to for a conversation, discussion, and certainly discuss a little bit more. But that would be, my recommendation, and I believe it was the sheriff's as well. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But the last conversation I had with him was he thought it might be prudent to have the same policy for both buildings.
Okay.
Certainly something we can circle back to it at some point. But it was a question I think Supervisor Krebs brought up last meeting, so I want to make sure we're addressing that and certainly having it in front of this committee and potentially the board as a future discussion and if you so desire. There's no action items for today on the agenda, but it'd be something we could add at a future date.
Go ahead.
If I may, I would definitely agree it would be simpler and a better policy to keep it uniform between the two. It's just, and I'm not trying to sound like an idiot here, but not being able to carry a water bottle into the building was just, it's not a big deal, but it just is a frustrating issue at times. And I don't even see those on the list here, other than it says no glass bottles.
For containers.
Or containers, yeah, that's.
Well, it's
contained.
containers, so, and I'm not trying to rewrite the rules right here, and there's a whole committee that's assigned to debating those and stuff, but. It's not what I've experienced in the past,
Yeah.
so.
I guess the question to ask then that applies to what he's asking is the ammunition explosives. Obviously, some people carry weapons here, right? I've seen it in the past. Does that apply to employees then that come in on the west side? Or is this just on the east side with the public that comes in through the screening area?
So this applies to the entrance screening area. I think the private side, if you will, the employee side, that's a conversation that we should be having at some point.
I think we should, because I'm sure some of the employees would like to carry their own water bottles and stuff as well, so.
Yes, I would imagine there's certain things on that list that are amenable, like a water bottle coming in for lunch and stuff like that. Some stuff might not be on there. There's concealed carry, as you know as well, different responsibility, same thing that would impact the county board that are coming to the county board through that western entrance.
In the past, we used to have some county board members that carried concealed weapons, so
Yes, yeah.
it'd be good to
You
know.
might still have that.
We might, we don't know. So. Okay, any other questions?
One, if Scott, if you could go back to the first layout showing the secured entrance.
I'll get there.
There you go. So it looks like in that situation, there'd be two security lines, depending on if you go left or right through the front doors. For probably 80% of the days, besides peak entrance times, it's probably pretty slow coming through the main doors. How that's set up, would we, and if the rules are the same for either side, would they? Probably would we be able to use just one security point just for less manpower?
Yes, and I think the percentage is probably higher than 80%, that generally speaking, that they'd be usually one entrance only.
Yep.
I would think that this setup, for the most part, would be either A, if there's, to use both of them, would be if there's voting going on that particular day, or a jury thing going on at the same time as you have some other kind of big meeting here in this building, where other people coming through. I don't see that secondary one being utilized too often.
Mhm.
I want to point out, I do come in that way periodically, but generally speaking, don't see too much of a line right there. That I think one would be, useful for the most part. If you go down to Waukesha County, I think they only have one entrance and one security location, is what I've been told. I've been there now a long time, but there's only one.
So with two security lanes, we're not looking like we'd have to double our manpower other than just for peak special occasions.
I think for certain locations, I think Sergeant Hennis might have a comment on that. I think he is much more in tune to the traffic volumes that are coming through that door than I am. I would think that typically speaking, most days it'd just be the one entrance open.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
In general, it would be the two officers that are out there currently. I would, assume that during peak times, jury days, for the preceding days, you may have both stations open, but that is something that can definitely be scheduled and pre-planned, and would not be a daily occurrence.
Okay. That was my assumption. I just kind of wanted to confirm.
Okay. Any other questions? That's good, we're good. Thank you. Scott, do you have anything else on this agenda item?
No, thank you. We can certainly bring back the western entrance security items at a later date, once we have a little more time to work through that with the sheriff's department.
Sure, sounds good. We can move on to B, review the government center site and interior remodeling plan. Now, this is something, if I remember correctly, we kind of touched base on last week. or
Yeah,
last month.
we went through kind of office by office, if you will, or floor by floor. We made some tweaks based on the comments from there. We met this last week, Wednesday, and the Wednesday before, with quite a few of the departments to kind of further tweak it. Remember, the first set of plans was, yeah, this might happen in the future, so let's make sure we have enough space. Now we're starting to more fine tune them. So getting some changes done now. So we have project creep coming in a little bit later on. And so what we're looking at doing right now is to go through the set of the 3 floors and show what those look like over the course of the next several weeks. They'll be working on getting plans to roughly a 50 or 60% plan set, or maybe 30%, depending on how quickly they can work. And that's when you'll start seeing plan specifications. So you saw in the report about the kind of the timeline for this committee going forward, so you kind of see what you're going. So it's not going to be, it's not going to be pretty purple and blue drawings from here on out. You're going to get the black and white drawings that have a little bit more detail on them. You'll start seeing some, color schemes and door options and stuff like that you'll see. Is more, when I talk about building details, it's like, all right, what do you want our entrance doors for all these offices to look like? Right, that kind of stuff. You're going to start seeing if we have a countertop and a refrigerator, what does that look like? So you start to be more details as we go along. So these are still fairly high level. I do have some areas that we work with some of the departments where we got some tweaks already from the plan set that is, about a week old or so. So if it's the, and you also see in your packet, I did include the January edition, so you kind of compare what's changed from last time, but I'll kind of walk through it from again, the first floor. Supervisor Krebs talked about putting a hallway in, and that does seem to work out pretty well in this location, putting venting on one side, mail on the other. And then we get into right away the two areas where we met with some of the staff and made some minor modifications to that. And I'm gonna bring up on the screen, which is also in your on your table, the clerk and treasurer registered deeds offices. So we moved with them and got a little more detail working on with them as we look at the county clerk's office, and she's got a workstation here. But if you get to see some more people in there for passports, marriage certificates, stuff like that, it'd be nice to have a secondary workstation in there for people to sit and do their forms and whatnot they gotta do or waiting for it. The P means that's where they probably take their passport photos. The ID, that's where she'd have her I do wall. We would then move this door down a little bit because there's room to have that door swing open so that they can utilize not just this part of the counter, but the other side of the counter as well. We'd look at reversing this cubicle so that person could face the front counter. Again, some small little changes, but potentially moving the break, or when we're talking about break room, we're not talking about a break room, we're talking about a countertop that has enough outlets on there for microwave, coffee maker, stuff like that. Then a refrigerator, they wouldn't have sinks in them, they have to walk down to the restroom or the break room to get water or to dump water out. That saves us on obviously plumbing costs, getting plumbing to all those different locations. And so one thing we were considering was, because it's a smaller office, doing inside the conference room, and this wall could slide one way or the other a little bit. With this is a storage room, and having that counter and a refrigerator in that conference room. Then also moving these doors, because it's a lot easier if you're coming in this hallway door and going into the storage room, just to make it straight versus having to jog around the corner. And so when I say this is possible, now the architect takes it back and goes, does it actually fit? Right, does it actually work and all that kind of stuff? So even though I show it on a red line and the departments maybe want that, now they gotta go back and going, yep, that actually works, or no, that doesn't work. And so that's one of the couple of the modifications that we're looking at. Excuse me, and we gotta show where the printers are gonna be and stuff like that, and any other file cabinets that they might have in the clerk's office. So that kind of gives you a flavor for what we do. And now this, again, we had the general concept going, yep, it works. And now we're kind of refining it a little bit. So the architect can go back and then start really looking at where is the HVAC, where's the power, and get a little more plant details for next time around.
Supervisor Gallons?
Thank you, Chair. Question, Mr. Schmidt, and maybe even Ms. Reichert. So I'm looking at the county clerk, right? And it's got the workstation, which appears to be roughly where it is now, where you enter and you have limited access. Is that correct? Another workstation further into your space? The reason why I ask that is somewhere in here, it also talks about some safe rooms. So if we're trying to control traffic, and or if, heaven forbid, there's lockdown requirement or something, would getting constituents further into the work area be more problematic?
I want to point out, they'd be put in this area right here, kind of the lobby.
Okay.
This would just be a door.
So that's expanding that.
Correct. This would be one big lobby.
Got it.
There's a workstation, two workstations in a big lobby.
Okay.
Yep, and then this would be I'll call a full-size door, so a ceiling door, move back in. This would be a high countertop. And then for ADA compliance, we have to have a low countertop as well. And so being literally right next door to security right now, could somebody come in here and jump that counter? They could. And so we talked to the clerk yet to see, and we haven't had the conversation yet of, well, do you need like bars along here or something to keep people out? And she's shaking her head no, right now, but that is, something we're talking with other departments as well, which we'll get into. We get right across the hallway from here. So, but generally people will stay out in the lobby area here. Would be more Right now, they actually use the hallway as part of the lobby. Up right now, they wouldn't have to do that going forward. If you've been up at the clerk's office, there's a couple of chairs right across, and there's all people sitting outside in the hallway. They'd all be able to house in their home in front of the lobby.
Because I get it, there's that blend of employee and protecting employee security, et cetera, but then also making it more inviting to constituents. So it's trying to balance both of
Correct.
those.
Yes,
You know, the question becomes is which takes precedent? Is it employee security, especially treasurer office, whatever disgruntled, you know, folks? So, you know, where is that balance?
yes. Oh, we are working with each individual department to figure out what their level of security is, and working with our sheriff's department to kind of codify that a little bit. And so, with this area, we did meet with the clerk, and she was okay with this so far. And she's got her microphone on if she'd like to comment about. Again, if it's as far as putting, you know, bars up here or something like that, or clerk reports has kind of I'll call it a bar system, right? That people can, it's not plexiglass, it's just bars that people can't jump over the counter at. So that's one of the items we're looking for, like I said, right across the hall from this. And so that we kind of are leaving up to departments and working with our sheriff's department to see what that level of security would be for each individual department.
And then maybe last question, you know, with the double doorways here, county clerk, and I'm not sure the other areas, treasurer, et cetera. But are those closable,
Yes,
fire close as well as?
yes, each, they would have a button in the office, maybe even two there, so they can hit, you know, like a panic button, if you will, to get those closed, yes. I do also see that there's an entrance and exit, two of them, to the office as well, that if something happens and you really need to get out. Again, we are providing, the safe rooms we're gonna show it on the plans, because we want to advertise where those are gonna be. That's an added level of security as well, and again, we're working with the sheriff's department, with that, once we get a little bit further down the road.
You know, the one question I have too, with regards to the floor layout and stuff, when are we gonna get a definite answer with regards to the clinic? I mean, are we just gonna move forward as though that's going in yet, or are we moving forward as though that's not happening?
The county executive and Aaron Dahl, Department of Administration is currently working on that, and I think they're hoping to have an answer before your next meeting.
Okay, does that fit your timeline?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Are you gonna talk about the treasurer's office now?
Well, yes, we've just got done with the clerks, and if we have any more questions there, if not, we'll slide across the hallway, if that's okay.
Is this where we get into disgruntled taxpayers conversation?
I hope not, but it's possible.
Treasurer.
So what you see in this location is just a little bit different of a layout with the treasurer register of deeds. We're looking at potentially making some modifications into that. And what you see here is a kind of a common area here, which will be opened up to the public. And across this area here, last we talked, would be kind of like we have up in the clerk reports office, those bars, if you will. So again, not plexiglass, but bars that are spaced appropriately that people can't jump over the counter. Again, there has to be a low counter for ADA and a high counter. And then we still gotta work through the, you know, do we have to have a screen that comes down at the end of the evening and stuff like that, or it can just be left open overnight? Again, so these would be doors coming in. To that would be CRs for a card reader, so card reader access only. So if they want to let somebody in, they'd have to physically let somebody into their interior office areas. This would be kind of a holding or waiting area where they'd be at the counter for each of those locations. And again, we're looking right now, the last conversation we had, and we still have to have more. We put a bar system up across I should have probably taken a picture of it. I don't have one handy with me, but those we would be looking at doing for security for that area.
As we move along, though, I'm assuming with more details in the plan, we'll probably have that.
You'll get a very detailed plan. You'll get a definitely more detailed, more construction drawings coming up at your next meeting. And then after that, I forget which meeting it is, but you'll be getting a full construction set, specifications,
Okay,
all that stuff to look at. And by the time we get to construction drawings, we'll make sure we have all this stuff worked out. But in the meantime, it's kind of baby steps here, kind of a little bit slow going, get some things worked out, make sure they're functioning for departments, then get it to the architects, and then I'll start looking at HVAC and window locations and all kind of stuff to verify them. And so you'll see little tweaks, right, going, oh, this wall moved 2 feet because of this, or that moved a couple feet because of that. So that's still gonna happen through the course of the next month or so.
Okay.
So currently, we're looking at the treasurer back in the corner with another, we talked about having an entrance this location, but also if something's going in this hallway, they'd be able to get out the back door towards the Justice Center. So they have a 2 ingress and egress points coming into the treasurer's office. What's different between this one and the last one you saw is we closed up this hallway, went to the back. Didn't really see much of a need for it. And it actually creates a nice, where people come in this hallway, without this hallway, kind of went down to this area, kind of a dead end. By putting the wall up here, it gives nice wayfinding. We put arrows on there, all kind of stuff going. So that really helped us out. I want to give the treasurer kudos to point that out on one of the plan sets. That was one of his thoughts was, why don't we just go up and utilize some of that hallway space as well. So we still got some truthing out here, make sure the treasurer can see the front counter from his office. We got a dead area to the south or underneath there that we got to kind of work through to see what that area is going to look like. We're talking about, because we got a larger area up on this location to move this wall, maybe the counter, north or up a little bit. You'll see that two cubicles, this one doesn't have them, they can't get out of their cube right now. And so by moving that wall up would help solve that situation as well. So there's some work that needs to be done in the treasurer register deeds office, but I think overall, got a show printer on there, some countertops, and where they're keeping each of the file cabinets. So again, once we get, let's say it's baby steps, right? You get concept first, you dive down to a little bit deeper, and you kind of keep going as you go down. So there's definitely some work that needs to be done yet in that area.
if you spin those cubicles 90 degrees, wouldn't that take care of that problem?
Yep, like I said, it looks
Little tweaks.
poor on the drawing. Same thing, like I said, with the clerk's office, we got to rotate one of those so they can see the front. So it's just, the first concept was to make sure that they had enough office space for everybody that they needed. And then now we're gonna, fine tune that area to kind of get what they're looking for out of their space.
One other question, I don't want to get too much into details.
This is
but-
what we're doing.
So the doors on the treasurer's office.
Like this one?
The door on his office, yeah. What if you moved that around the corner? Wouldn't that allow for a future cubicle if you needed another one there? Say we grow, expand, we need more employees.
You can't see the front counter.
Yeah,
We can still put a window there though, right?
potentially a window. One thing we're looking at, right, is all those areas, which doors do have windows, which doors don't have windows.
Sure.
And so, yes, it's quite possible this configuration changes with, again, they've got believe it or not, there's some nice columns in this building too, these little squares.
Oh.
And they've got to fine tune where those columns are. We've got lots of building plans for this building, and sometimes they just don't. Real life doesn't match up with the plans.
Just don't jive.
It don't jive. And so there's some work that needs to be done to this whole area to make sure that, is that really where that column is? And is it, a foot or two might make all the difference in the world on where that location is.
Absolutely.
And so that's one thing we gotta work on. And could the whole room slide down a little bit more and be, more in this area? It's possible. We just gotta really work on that to get that figured out with where those column locations are. And like I said, this is what we don't want, is kind of these dead areas.
Dead
There's
areas,
really nothing
right.
there. And so that's what the architecture firm's gotta really get a better solid handle on.
Yeah.
And you have this drawing is on your desk as well in front of you.
The problem is when I blow it up, it's very blurry.
Yeah.
It's hard to see,
Okay,
which I
but
think.
the hard copy is in front of you, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
what, yeah,
That
that's
you can-
dedicated.
Okay. That works.
Utilize, and that's why I did that, so you can get a little better view for it.
Supervisor Krebs?
In the Register of Deeds office and the land, is it the land records office? there's a lot of like hard copies of stuff on the back shelves, is like stuff like that.
Staying.
Staying,
Yeah.
we're keeping stuff like that.
Correct, yep, and that's where they'll be working on along this wall, this wall, this wall. And like I said, also worried about make sure that the people that are utilizing those books have a place to actually use the books.
Cause those
Rather
are,
than-
those are open to the public.
Oh, yes, yep. So this office will definitely be allowing more people into there. Less and less people are coming in to look at the books because they're all scanned in. And so I think a lot of times people, even that are coming to the desk instead of going back to the book, I think they're given a scanned copy. I'm not sure if the registry is behind me or not today.
Cheers.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I think most people that are coming in, instead of doing their research themselves, probably ask her staff to, I need this document, this page, and probably get it from them.
The majority of what they look at is the tract books and then figure out what volume and page they're going into. If they have the volume and page, then they can just go into the system and look it up electronically. But everything is scanned in, they can get copies of them. But there are some old school people that like the books and want to touch them, so they will be accessible.
And they're also online as well.
Yeah. Very good.
They're online as well. And so if they don't want to come in, they can do that, but that's where, door to the public will probably get used, a lot more on the register of deeds office and on the treasurer side. But generally speaking, probably not every day. No,
And then what is the middle on the left side, the kind of the Jack and Jill room between the two there?
That would be mini break room?
yeah, that would be a quasi break room, right? We show the printer in there, the countertop, the microwave, refrigerator. They're asking for separation, so basically these two doors would be card reader as well. So that the registry staff doesn't go in by the treasurer and the treasurer doesn't go in by the register of deeds, but they're able to utilize the same break area. Does that make sense? So the registry staff would key in this door, but wouldn't be able to key access to get out the other door. So it's one thing we're looking at. Again, with the whole, this area here to the north, and what does that look like? And what does this look like? Is that the best use of that space? Is it better off to each have their own little counter and small refrigerator? So that's the stuff they gotta really, truth out yet.
Okay, and then lastly, on the bottom left, that. I have no idea where that door room is currently.
Yeah, that room is a very hidden room for us right now. It's actually utilized by facilities. But what they're looking at, the registries would have a more secure area for some of the records. And so that's where they would be kept in that back area there. And then that secondary access back there goes out into call it our boiler room and all that kind of stuff. And so that if there's a need to get out because of this access being closed, they do have another way to get out of their office as well.
Okay, so obviously the architects would have to flush out the travel patterns for
Yes.
egress and stuff.
Yep, and that's what we're looking at right now. How close are they? How far away they are, right? That some of the stuff like might change, and if that's too far, you might see a door in this location, for instance. It comes out to the hallway, so they gotta do their good job of checking exits and distances and all that kind of stuff, yes.
Questions or Jeff?
Similarly, I know this is very early, but the treasurer only has himself and Ashley now. Do we anticipate need for all those cubicles eventually, or?
There's also the real property lister, as well as the assistant real property lister on their official title. So that's why you see those.
10-4, thank you.
So we can slide down the hallway a little bit more, and this is where we have a couple different options. Again, if the clinic is here or going away, right behind me, there is some storage areas that we don't no longer need, and we're making a small conference room out of that potentially, especially if the facilities is in this location. If we need a little overflow for county board hearings, meetings, stuff like that, that we'd have a meeting right next door that has Zoom capabilities so that people can attend the county board meetings, if so be it. You might not realize that on occasion we do an overflow room across the way. Excuse me, so that would give us that opportunity to have that. We'd allow another conference room down the hallway right across from the county board room, and the facilities would take up most of the room, what's 1014 and 1020 downstairs. And again, a wall, as we talked about last time, halfway in between where the yellow will be open to the public and the tan will be then a public, excuse me, a private employees / county board members only coming through that. So you know, card reader access door.
So my first question on this, is that small conference room adequate enough to take up a overflow?
Yes.
Especially when we have a few of those.
Correct, and if we need to, we got a secondary conference room that's just down the hall as well, that we can do as an overflow. And since we potentially would have access to their jury room through this door, you could potentially do that as well if you have something that's that big.
Major.
Right, and knowing that you're gonna have security here anyway, you would then be able to have a security officer here, make sure they're not going through here, but again, your meetings are at night and
Mhm.
the odds of them needing that room at night are fairly slim.
Okay.
And then we have facilities across the hallway there.
But if the clinic goes away, facilities might end up on the.
Yes, we'll get to that drawing, it's in the packet as well, yes. The other thing that you've seen is that I want to point out, and I want to make sure that you see it now. Currently at the end of this hallway, if you've been down here, the restroom, it's got a little funky little hallway there to get back to the staff. To make functioning a little bit better, we'd get rid of that vestibule and make sure it actually, you go into that vestibule now and go out. We put a double set of doors on that side so we can actually get stuff in and through the building. That's our loading dock in that location. And so to make a better pattern to get through, we'd be able to go right through that vestibule to get goods and services back to people. Also, if the clerk needed access to another room in the back, right here, they could get into the private lot that's in the back, come in these two doors, and then have that little conference room back there as well. Again, very close for carrying stuff in and out of the building.
Ballots. Mhm.
Ballots,
Yep.
yes.
So what you're saying is in that vestibule that looks like a closet, eventually there's gonna be exterior doors there as well?
There's exterior doors, there's doors right here right now, and there's doors right here. We're looking at adding a set of doors in this location and closing off the door that's there.
Oh, gotcha.
The men's restroom is in this location, the women's restroom is right down the hall, right out here inside the door. It allows for better traffic flow to get in and out of that loading dock.
Oh, so that door on the side, that's not a closet, there's actually access to the outside.
Correct, it's part of the drawings that aren't shown real correctly. But yeah, there's a set of overhead, because it's got overhead there, that's why it shows that like in the second floor.
Yeah.
The little overhang there, but that's doors so you can get in and out.
Is that a waterfall in the hall there?
Yes, right there. That's existing today. So again, not touching the two restrooms, closing off this doorway and then putting a double set of doors right there so people can, as you can imagine, it's not very useful getting through here, going through here, and you do a lot of large movement of larger stuff through there.
Sure. Okay.
But I didn't want to point that out that something that's on the plan. The next page shows if facilities not on that floor. Again, nothing changes by the registered deeds clerk. And registered deeds treasurer clerk's office, but the two conference rooms that you see across the hall today would stay as is. Now, we might do LED lights in those rooms, a little painting touch up, but they would basically stay as is. And so obviously it's a cost savings to the county too, if they don't have to remodel two large conference rooms, and gives us more space, and then your overflow would be in that location.
That's if we don't do the clinic.
Correct.
So then if we would leave those as is, would we not create that new conference or overflow room to the plan right of the county board room? That's small.
I would still recommend keeping it because we lose conference space on the second floor because of that, but where the GIS is gonna go. This area down low also had GIS and IT at one point, so we'll probably create that as well.
Okay, so you would keep that in the
Yes.
first round right away.
That would be my recommendation. And then when we get to the second floor, I'll start on that western side, that if the clinic is not here, facilities would slide right into where the clinic is. In that location, I can certainly zoom in. again, would meet the facilities needs of several offices, some hoteling stations for the staff, that is. Doesn't need office space, but comes in and utilizes a computer for work orders and stuff like that. So you'd have a couple cubicles for those and a general meeting room out in the area. We'd have plan sets and stuff like that in that location. So it fits facilities areas nicely. Any questions on that?
The
Yes.
amount of change then would be very limited from its current.
Oh, it'd be, this whole area would be gutted from what it is right now and completely redone. So this area here that is right now is room 2024. The clerk's office is right,
Okay.
that door stays in the same location. So that'd be conference room 2024 upstairs. So this was vet services, which is vacated the area. That would be completely gutted and remodeled.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm so familiar with it. Maybe I'm skipping some points on you. I apologize for that. Across from the area was the old county board room, county board office, county board chair's office. Kind of split into two different offices. We make that one large room, getting rid of the door that's in the middle and little wall, to make it a nice conference room. The current vestibule that's there right now would be a break room. With that and card reader access outside if people want to eat their lunches outside. I wouldn't do it today, but in the summer might have some time to do that. So we create a break room on the second floor as well. The first floor had a break room down in the corner. Again, this would be the break room right down doesn't get used a lot because it's open to the public because they're walking down the hallways all the time and unfortunately asking for directions quite a bit. So this would be on the employee only side would be a break room in that location. Again, that would have the sink in there, again, counter space. So that would be that location. So is any questions on the two conference room break rooms?
Just a quick question, if we do that where they have the break room and access outside, are you planning on getting rid of the steps and the stairs and the sidewalk that go to the public, or is that gonna stay in?
That would stay in. We would need it for our own ADA access.
Okay,
So this entrance here, we would probably redo the vestibule because it's kind of odd and funky to get through. And the outside door, especially if you look at the foot area, it's needs some work. So we'd be looking at modifying that, but outside, nothing would change.
okay.
Exterior,
Do you think that would,
the ramp would stay.
The
Yes,
ramp
we
would stay.
need to keep that for ADA purposes for our own employees.
do you think that would create confusion for the public since that, right now, it looks like one of the main entrances, cause it's got the big name over it and everything?
Let me go back and see if I've got
But they won't be able to get in that parking lot.
So the parking lot we'll be looking at doing, you might recall from last time, instead of spending the money putting up gates because the school is going away. We will most likely, once people are pushed to the east entrance, we would actually block off the entrance on Highway 33, directional them to get towards the east, where all the employees would come through off of Wilson Avenue to get into that parking lot. And so we have signage on the outside of the door, as well as signage along Highway 33 pointing to the new entrance. Part of the plan includes funding for signage because our signage is lacking outside, to say the least, and we need more signage on Rolls Avenue to the east and proper signage up here to get them to the correct location. And it's going to take a while because let's just be honest, if people aren't coming to the treasurer's office 3 times a week or the clerk's office 3 times a week, right? They're coming there maybe once a year, maybe once every few years. And so it'll take a little bit of time to get everybody to that new location. Hopefully Google Maps and address changes and all that kind of stuff will make a difference as well to get them, the traveling public, to the correct location. And that's gonna be a big key of this, is working with Google Maps and all those providers to make sure. And believe it or not, that the clerk, the treasurer, register deeds, they're gonna change their address. They're not gonna be on 33 anymore. Their address is gonna be, Schmidt Road, like the sheriff, to make sure that, Schmidt Road, and hopefully Google will get them to the right location.
Okay.
Cross your fingers.
And some PSAs will have to go out as well, right, when people know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, something on our website, it'll take us a while to get people in that location. I would ask that the treasurer, register deeds, put in their, mailings, if they do any, or on their website to make sure people are getting the right location to help them as much as possible.
Something is for that. The break room exit and stuff, there is like a sidewalk connecting to the public sidewalk, something like that we could remove too to help segregate that area.
Yes, because currently right now with the PAC still being across the street, people are coming across the street this location and heading left and there. It was decided that PAC is not going away, certainly the sidewalk that leads from the street to the building could be removed. Next, going back to the down the hallway, which is the current county clerk's office is in this location. Our purchasing agent is in the middle. And what's now dark is the old treasurer's office at the end of the hallway. We'll be looking at making a GIS and IT shared area in that location. With a public facing door, again, GIS and IT don't have too many people coming in from the public. That's why they're near the end of that hallway. But still on occasion, we'll have to bring in a vendor or something that comes into the office and make sure they're going through security before coming into those areas. And so you see IT is mostly to the east and GIS is to the west. That was location, met with them just before this meeting, and they definitely feel the space is adequate. And it's got room for future expansion for the IT area as well. You might recall we're doing a lot of GIS shared services, IT shared services, and if the board so desires and an executive, we want to expand those programs, we have room to expand and we feel a good comfortable number going forward. So you can see some hoteling stations, some cubicles, some offices, some areas that would be temporarily used as storage, could be converted to offices into the future. To make sure we're kind of pre-planning that and try to future-proof this area as much as possible. So if you look at current staffing versus what's here, it's definitely overbuilt for about 3 or 4 offices.
You said, part of that area currently, that's where purchasing is. Where are they gonna end up?
So we'll get to the 3rd floor in a minute. But they'll be up on the 3rd floor because purchasing is held through finance. So they'll be up in the finance and HR suite. But good question.
Make it a suite.
Any overall questions for the IT or GIS area? Going across the hall. Oh, I'm way too far. I apologize. The natural resources area. You will see they have their public entrance on the east side or the right side of their entrance. And then to get to their area, people would come up the elevator, certainly, or could come up the stairwell, and we direct them to this location with, again, a full-size door, but a countertop. We have to also show the ADA countertop in there. They were not as concerned about security to have anything more than just open vestibule, very similar to what they have right now if you've been over by them. And so within their offices, they have a lot of offices, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 offices and a lot more cubicles in their area that you see. You see a lot of other areas have offices where they're more open and cubicles than needing individual offices. So you'll see some common areas and hoteling rooms, stuff like that in their area. They also have a large storage area here, a little locker room. They actually travel out in the field, so a locker room / storage because of their boots being muddy and dirty and all that kind of stuff. So you see a little area that's there that because if they're having just a cubicle, there's not a place to put their coats and their jackets and all that kind of stuff. So they're more of a conference room. It's gonna be a locker room type feel there. And to point out that with consolidating, there's this convenient corner, if you will, that's currently there right now down the hallway with a door that goes to the hallway. We've been making that our plotter and scanning room so that there'd be a door going into the parks, natural resource department, so they could utilize that area. But also if GIS or real property register deeds need to print something on the plotter or scan something in, they'd have card access reader for if they're meeting on a Saturday with somebody, or they have extended hours early in the morning, late in the evening. They'd have access right to those plotters or printer in that room. It's also, they do some mailings. The Parks Department does some mailings on occasion, large scale mailings. And so that same area will be utilized for that. It's a very loud machine that stuffs envelopes and folds papers and stuff. So that'll be in that area. that you see right there. And that was pretty well received by a lot of departments, that they could have access to that kind of 24/7 with just a simple key card and plot something out and get there. Highway department, we plot stuff out across the street. We don't have our own plotter, so it's nice that we can go there, get it and get our merry way.
It's not getting too nitpicky.
No, by all means.
You were talking about muddy boots before from the guys that go out in the field. For permits and stuff like that, inspections and stuff. Isn't there another area they can change their boots before they even get up to here?
They're coming in the main door from the west, coming down the hallway and getting into areas. I would hope they do their best to clean off their boots outside. I know across the street, they have boot cleaners outside the door for them to utilize. We probably do the same thing here. Yeah, walk off mats.
Walk off mats, okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna be a constant. I work construction. We have the same problem in our office too, so. Okay, thank you.
I'll go next, some minor modifications to district attorney. We met with the previous district attorney and we're fortunate enough to meet with the current district attorney on this plan set. We are currently working with them and the clerk of courts on interior spacing of their cubicles that they have there. It looks like a large open area in the middle, but there's actually cubicles there, file cabinets, stuff like that. So we'll be working with them on those locations to kind of truth those out a little bit to see, okay, what do they actually have right now? What's the proper spacing between them? And what can they fit in the future, where the past district attorney was very concerned about creating a little bit larger conference room for staff. And this one is concerned about that, but also if they ever have more staff, that they're not limiting themselves in the future by expanding that conference room right now. So something that we're working on with him is that area, as well as very well received to create these two office spaces down here, which are now storage and living in open area. So again, some minor modifications to the district attorney's office.
For the district attorney's office, how much future capacity would we have with just creating those two additional offices?
That's one thing we're working on with them, to see what other capacity that the other areas are. Because one of these is the office managers and the one to the right, so currently I think it's just 2 extra office spaces, but that's why we're working on them too, to figure out how many cubicles we could potentially fit in there into the future as well.
Cause I know we're always, there's always discussion that we'll need more staff.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
That's why it's nice to have like the conversation with the current district attorney and to pass on to see what their thoughts are on the future needs. But that's where, like I said, we're working with JL Furniture, our business, not just here, but up in the clerk of courts to look at those areas, to see what the cubicles are right now and what they could be in the future.
I think you mentioned that before too, Scott, that with all the areas that you're working on, you're looking at having enough room in each space for future expansion, right? Or future needs.
We are trying our best to predict the future, yes. Without being, too over the top either.
Oh, sure.
As you can tell, we're not increasing the size of the footprint of the building or anything like that. Just off of there, we've got some storage area, just to the east or right of those areas. So we'll be looking at keeping that as storage areas. One other change that we'll be talking about, again, this is on your table as well as up on the screen. The community development department, we looked at that whole area a little bit more in depth with them, as well as working with our architect a little bit on this. The law library ends up being pretty small. We had some additional space with U of extension going away. And so we'll be looking at doing, going from the north, is that mother's room would be utilized this whole area and then could be used as a conference room or law library. And then the mother's room would switch to the other side of the hallway. You don't need as much room for mother's room. You don't need a larger conference room. This would be de facto storage for the community development. This would be their countertop and refrigerator with a door going in. This conference table would be pushed up and then the door put that location. We would remove one of these cubicle areas that are right here, so that people that are coming in and meeting, again, you got several programs right now meeting with, Hart Homestead and all those programs that they've got going on. And so we want to have access to those rooms. And so by eliminating one of these potential cubicles, staff could get the people up into these areas in a more professional manner versus going around them. They have storage right by their front door. And then since they don't need this refrigerator and countertop, this could be another, if you look at, a cubicle in that location in the future, going forward, that if they would need that extra staff person comes back in or an intern, they'd be able to easily put that in this location, down in that area and not really impact their office footprint too much. So I did, speak with, through email with the community development, department head, and, she was in favor of a lot of these changes to her area.
So for this area, there's not really a reception type desk so much, it's more just you're entering into their space.
Correct, and that's where kind of we got the cubicle here, they come into and kind of enter that. They feel that most of them are by appointment, not people just coming off the street, kind of knocking on their door. They're expecting them, they know when they're coming. And so they currently do not feel like they need that countertop when they come in. And so we're kind of letting it up to some departments to let us know how they function. And if they believe they can function like this and don't need a countertop, well, then we won't install a countertop. And if they feel they need to have a countertop in the doorway, like the clerk's office, for instance, that's what we're doing for them. So we're kind of let them, they're experts in kind of starting with that point going forward. And that's what they see right now versus the natural resources. They don't, we want a countertop and keep people out there. Redevelopment's a little different philosophy.
And in the future, that cubicle that's remaining there could always be, that could be swapped over for more of a counter if.
Sure, it'd be a very
Type setup.
quick move, yes.
Did I hear you correctly saying where you got the A down there at the, yeah, you don't need that countertop or refrigerant in that area?
Well, we've been putting it up here, kind of
Yeah.
behind that door. And so this, they talked about having like cabinetries for like a library,
Oh, gotcha.
but then that could also be, this cubicle could fit, in this location here.
Wouldn't it make more sense to take that storage area and dump it down there? Cause it's kind of a dead end space there anyway.
Quite possibly, yes, and having countertop up there, yes, it's one thing the architectural firm will look at, and, originally it was very important for them to have storage right by the front door.
Okay.
And so that might not be as critical as it was. We've gone through several iterations with each department, right? Every time you look
Oh,
at it,
yeah.
we come up with one little thing and, oh, they want that, oh, they changed that a little bit, so. Yes, we'll be working on that to see what that looks like going forward, and especially those door locations.
Sure. Okay.
What is currently in this area?
This is IT and GIS.
Okay.
So you come down this hallway, there's a door right here that gets you into the IT area, and it's
That's where
GIS.
their ring doorbell is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now I know where we're at.
Now you know where we're at, yep. That kind of concludes the tour around the second floor. Any other questions on the second floor? Alrighty, and then. So the next option has the clinic in the area where facilities was. Oh, sorry.
Scott, does everybody know now where, extension is going?
I put it in the report. I didn't speak to it.
It's gonna be relocated to MPTC. I think they signed an agreement, didn't they?
I'm not sure.
Close.
And so if the clinic does come, we do have a location for them. We've been working with Freighter hand in hand. Their staff has seen this plan several times, and they've looked at it, and they like it, and they approved it. So if you have any questions on the clinic layout, we certainly can zoom into that. Again, county staff would come in this door, currently working with the city of West Bend, they would come in through the security and come down through that way because they wouldn't be allowed to come into the back door. We wouldn't want to have key card access to every person in the city of West Bend, so they come through the security, come upstairs. We have to make sure we badge them in somehow by the main door and then get them back to the clinic. Part of the thought process is if the clinic comes in, this card reader door, instead of being at this location, moves down to this location. So they'd be able, this would be a public hallway going back into the clinic. But we work with them as far as location of the sinks and, rooms and desks and all that kind of stuff where they'd like them. We'll be utilizing some of the materials from downstairs as well. The clinic was remodeled not too long ago and a lot of stuff is pretty fresh, so we're even talking about bringing up the countertops and these, cabinetry and stuff from downstairs up if possible.
Probably 20% chance.
I don't wanna put a number on it. I'm not involved in the conversations in depth, so. With that, we go to the third floor. Oh, I'm zooming in when I should be zooming out. So one thing we talked about earlier about the clerk of court's office and again, what looks like a large open space in the middle of their office is truly not a large open space. There are many file cabinets and many cubicles in there. You'll also see some columns that are not strategically placed throughout the whole area. And so we had jail business coming there to kind of do some measurements about what's actually there right now. So they're working up a plan to work alongside of our architect to see what is actually needed in those locations. To make sure that those cubicles are spaced properly, facing the right way properly, all that stuff. So we've got some work to do with the clerk of courts, like I said, with the register of deeds as well earlier. And the district attorney to actually finalize those areas and kind of tweak those areas. So you might see some next set of plans, we'll see some more internal stuff that you don't see right now, but like you be assured it's coming down the road to make sure that we meet the needs that are in there. We did make some changes down here to change this into instead of one larger area, because it's got a large column in the middle with the heating, ventilating, the air conditioning, so we don't want to move that. So we decided to create a large conference room, a small conference room, potential break room in that location, secure storage area for the clerk of courts in that area. There's also some general storage for the large conference room, some tables or chairs, stuff like that, because again, the odd corner that's there. So a lot of stuff didn't make a lot of changes since then, but this area definitely changed since the last time we saw a set of plans. We definitely need to work out the interior office space of the clerk of courts as well yet. Again, not creating new offices, but there's quite a few cubicles in there and file cabinets. She's currently working on doing scanning of those files and doing a great job of that, but I'm not sure those will all be completed by the time the project is underway.
Got the outside of the clerk of courts, that corridor there. Is that there currently?
No. There's an access way to get into the clerk of courts office through the back door, but that would create a corridor for the public to go through. That's in the Justice Center or the Government Center. Again, if we decided to do two different security measures, then there'd have to be a door somewhere between there to make sure people couldn't transfer between the two, just like on the second floor. But that is to allow the county attorney's offices in this location with a doorway, main entranceway on this side. That would allow access for HR, county executives' offices to actually get to those locations without knocking on the back door to the offices.
Okay, so that's a new, if the security lines up, that's a new public area.
Correct. Mhm. And then the last potential changes on the third floor would be in the county executives area and county board chairs area. If you come into this as the waiting room to get into the county exec / county boards area, Aaron Dahl sits in this office right now. We'll be looking at creating a door from that waiting area to get in there and create a conference room in that location right now. Basically, there's a little bit of a wall in between there. If you're in Aaron Dahl's office, it's got a framework on each side and a little header on top. It's not really going anywhere. So you remove that interior wall to make a large conference room. That way, people that are coming to visit you in the county board chair or the county executive don't have to go walking into the suite and through the suite to get into the conference room. So the administrative assistant can get people and escort them right into that room right when they come. There could be a secondary door on the back corner here or along the wall over here. People can get in from the back side. We just haven't had that conversation yet with in-depth conversation, I say, with the county board chair or county executive's office. Down the way, we would create an office here. The space is there already. We just put a wall and a door and create an office between the two offices. The county board chair currently sits in this location. This says conference, but that would be an actual office, right, that location, and potentially chief administrative office would be at the end of the hall. Could conveniently be that the county board chair is at the end of the hall and his assistant sits right next to him. The conference room would be right at kitty corner from them. If we were needed to separate the county board from the county executive, we could easily put a wall up with a door in this location where the county board chair would have his office, assistant's office, access to his conference room. This door probably doesn't need to be needed, and there's actually a restroom in this location, so it would lend itself up to that. Or it could go, like we said, with the chief administrative officer in the conference room in this location. What we're looking at then is these two offices right now are being occupied. This was Aaron Dahl's office. He's now across the way, and this is Marty, part of the budget team. He would then move into one of these offices across the way. And then these two offices would be our purchasing department. We'll move up into these two offices. So they wouldn't need any remodeling or anything. So right now, the finance director sits in a corner with a bunch of her staff is kind of in this general location. And so they would move up to these two offices. Again, no work needs to be done. They would just simply move into those offices. And we have two extra offices on this location that actually wouldn't even be utilized. It's shown as orange. This room exists as it is right now. There's no work needs to be done to this. So to make this happen, this location be a wall and a door, a wall and a door, the door entrance, and removing part of what was left of the wall in this location. So not a lot of work up in the executive and county boardroom suite, but enough to make it the room a little more utilized. There's a window at the end of the hallway. There's currently a door right here, so you have access to this window and a little more natural light going into that hallway. And then this again, a lot of the staff from across the hallway utilize this as a break room, and that same small conference room can be utilized for that same purpose. So you can see that the orange area down below, and that small conference is exactly the same size. So if they don't want to go down to the second floor or the first floor for break room, they potentially could use that as a break room as well. I would like them to go down to the second floor or first floor, and we could all meet together and have lunch together. And people not be on their phones during their lunch hours, but that might be more of a dream than anything.
Jeremy has a question.
Do they have a restroom available across the hall?
I don't know the answer to that. I know there are restrooms in the public way, but I'm not sure there are restrooms in there, and that maybe is why the architect put that set of doors there.
Yeah, they use that restroom.
But there also is two restrooms
Down the hall.
down the hall in this location, recent remodeled as well.
So there's no restrooms up by the courtrooms? Or is that too far?
Yes, there are. They're not shown on the drawing.
Currently, they're not accessible from the government side though, but that way will.
It also depends if staff want to go out and mingle with the general public to use the restroom or not. But you have this whole area down below here is open to the public now, so it would be in the future, so you'd still be, with the future open to the public to get to the restroom.
If you go plan left, the hallway or corridor just past where finances.
Sorry.
That's where the shading ends, that's where that would get cut, that would be the
Yeah,
delineation between public and then employee side.
Yes, so this again, should have been shaded to tan color, they just missed the shading on that. But yeah, this would be a set of doors in this location that the public could get to HR and finance or to the executive and boardroom in this location.
What about emergency exits though? Like if you're the public up there. The exit, an emergency, you have to only go east.
Correct.
Okay.
That'd be something, again, we'd have the architect has to look at all the ingress and egress points for not just this, but every office.
Okay, it's just, that's the one thing that sticks out. Once you're up on an upper floor, and it's kind of awkward if you can't go west if needed for emergency.
At the risk of getting into the minutia, but with all the conference rooms. You know, I looked today and you can do a meeting and pick a location and there's a number of conference rooms are available. You were talking earlier about staff needing to badge into areas, so will all the conference rooms that are accessible to staff be available for signing out and scheduling through Outlook?
I would say most of them are right now. I mean, right now, the only difference is 2024, that the county clerk kind of controls that access to that room. And so there might be some rooms that are just like that she has a special need for it. But generally speaking, yes, all the other rooms are, there's a application the county has to actually get access to that, to reserve the rooms.
So again, facilitating that space and just as an aside from facilities management, you know, do you and or that team, do they track to use? And so the number of spaces that we have today for conference and team meetings, is it well used? Or you know, I guess the question earlier about build out for the future. Well, if we got a lot of conference rooms and they're collecting dust,
Right.
You know, could they be used for something else?
Sure, certainly. I mean, storage number one, because we're getting yelled at for not having enough storage in a lot of these locations. But more importantly is like our natural resources coming across the street. You know, they have an internal one, but they utilize a lot of their conference spaces across the street. And so that's why they're looking at. They're a big user apparently of conference spaces. We do have the data somewhere, like magically, because they do reserve the rooms. I'm not sure if we can pull that data out or not. But I know that a lot of the rooms get utilized quite often.
Any questions on this? Seeing none, did you want to move on to our last topic, Scott? Move campus property, or did you have something else to add yet to the remodeling plan?
That's all I have on the remodeling plan. Like I said, the agenda kind of lays out the timeline that we're looking at going forward. So you kind of get a feel for what's coming and kind of plan your schedules accordingly when you start seeing, you know, plan sets. We will share all those with you. You will have them. They're gonna be long. I'm not gonna deny that, the plan sets, so.
Are you gonna PDF those to us when we get them?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Just, you know, nothing fills my weekend better than looking over plans.
Yep. And if the committee ever desires, if you want us to print out a set because that is easier for you to purview, just please let me know. I know that looking at a plan set on a computer is difficult. I know I often print them out myself. And so if that is something that you'd be interested in, just let me know. We do have the plotter, as you know.
Yeah, so I can carry that around too. Well, if anything, if it's on a PDF, I can maybe put it on my computer screen at home, which is much bigger than this one.
Yes. Yep.
So easier to look at.
Yep.
Right, see nothing further on this. We review the campus property. That's kind of like what we talked about a little bit in the beginning, right?
Yeah, and I want to bring up, I want to thank the GIS department here at the county. They put this map together for me to utilize. First and foremost, I want to start off by saying the county executive and county board chair are thinking about creating a workforce, if you will, to actually look at the county campus boundary in general and see what to look at to do with that. And so right now, this is a building committee, but they're looking at creating its own little workforce, potentially bringing in the school district, the city of West Bend, probably local developers, stuff like that, create more of a, I don't want to use the word task force, but work group to kind of look at that area in general, see what we should actually do with our whole county campus. This committee will actually start rolling into this building stuff a little bit more, start talking about the PAC as we get going, but right now we're kind of staffed up time with our capital improvement program and getting this rolling and stuff, but you'll see that rolling your way here next couple of months. But what this is on, because you asked for the whole campus and what we own here at the campus, so that's part of it. We kind of ran out of time to start talking about all the parks and the sheriff's cell towers and stuff like that. So kind of reserving that for the the other committee or a work group that's created, but I wanted to make sure I shared this with you because it was asked about the, it seemed like the county campus here is more of an interest in the outside lands, that the county potentially owns. So you'll see the different acreages that are put on there as well. We also did, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, we included where there was floodplain and wetland. That's a dashed line that's there, so that it might look like there's a lot of developable land up there, but as you know, there's some restrictions when you start talking floodplain and wetland. So we also threw the acreage in there, which is separate from there. So here's 23.9 acres that's outside of the floodplain wetland and about 22.6 inside of that. So kind of get a flavor for what's kind of developable land, not developable. And so you'll see just south of that, if you're not familiar, which is north of the sheriff's office in Fair Park School, that's a wooded area and there's some steeper slopes in there. And so to make sure we're highlighting that as well, I'm going, you know, from a 2D view, it looks like, oh, that's beautiful land, it's wooded, it's great developable land, but it's pretty steep in that location. Not saying you can't do something with it, but just pointing it out that it's not all flat and you can create whatever you want in that location. There's some slopes that we have to deal with throughout there. Then you see that the sheriff's department we put out there, we include the parking lot, the Fair Park School and the acreage associated with that. The 1.9 acres, that's kind of the fallow land west of the parking lot. So you can get a feel for how much acreage is in that location. So I think Eric Damcott and Jess did a nice job of kind of breaking those different areas out for you to kind of show. And he did some total tallying too. There's 150 acres north of 33 and 22 acres south of 33, and then 9.5 acres for the Fair Park School. So again, so everything you see in the yellow boundary is owned by Washington County. We do have a cemetery in the kind of middle location, a little pauper cemetery. So again, something that looks like we can develop areas around there, but with the cemetery right in the middle, very difficult to develop that as a larger area, as you can imagine. Again, some hills up in that location as well. Going in northeasterly direction, the highway shop is on about 10 acres of, is it 13 acres of land. The solar farm is on just under 14 acres of land. That lease was signed in 2019 with a potential 30-year lease on that. So again, an area that's kind of more or less off hands for now. And a large 17.7 acres right north of the highway shop. It's got a little hill to the west or left side. A lot of this area is pure sand. We actually did the sheriff's remodeling and did his storage shed out back. We actually had leased our soils, came in and removed all the sand at no cost to the county, and then they were able to use it. So it's kind of a win-win. They got to use the sand, we didn't have to pay to actually get it removed. And so I'd say something very similar would happen near Creek and Rolls Avenue. That's so desirable to get that more of a level area.
You can see a bunch of farmland mostly up there on the north, but down by Family Promise, there's a field. We leased that out to the local farmer.
Use your mic. Sorry.
What the chair was saying, that there's some farm field up on the north end here. There's also 3 acres down by Family Promise and the PAC. There's also the land that you see up here, and they can farm into wetland and floodplain that you see. It was currently being leased out to a farmer. The county clerk is working with our purchasing agent and our natural resource department to actually put I believe they're doing RFP up for that to actually get bids in to see who wants to rent that land going forward, to make it open to the public to utilize that land and function, knowing that there could be a termination coming at some point.
So, Mr. Schmidt, on 2 occasions you mentioned the Fair Park School closing, vacating. So did I hear that right?
Correct. In 2027, they will no longer be having the referendum in November passed, and so be closing down Fair Park School. Depending on who you talk to, whether it's the county attorney or myself, the deed is whether it reverts back to the county or not. But when I read the deed, it does have restrictions on it that can be used for school purposes. And that's what the county sold land to the school district for that purpose. And that's why we want to make sure that the school district is back in that workforce or task group to actually work and see what that would look like. If it goes back, if it's not used for school purposes, that's part of the negotiations of, okay, now is it automatically ours? negotiate on it, all that kind of stuff, so it's a larger question that's out there. But currently, yes, they're not planning on having school there past 2027.
And can you please refresh my memory? By moving Jamie's office up here by us, what does that leave in the PAC that we'd have to move elsewhere again?
There are several departments left in the PAC that the county utilizes. The smallest is vet services. Then you have human services. In that building, they're by far the largest tenant that's there.
Okay.
The ADRC, Aging Development, Aging Disability Resource Center. I believe that's their title, as well as the health department is in that building. And then Farm Service Agency, FSA, is in that building. So we still have quite a few tenants that are still.
Yeah, you said 4 or 5. Now, would all 4 or 5 of those, if we decide to build something to the east here, all 5 of those would go, we would consider all those that go in there?
I mean, that would be up to the board to decide on who goes and who stays, whether you
Yeah.
wanna, do you wanna spend money in a building and lease it to a farm service agency anymore? That's a great policy question for the board to see if that's what you wanna do or not. That would be your decision. We'd have to work with the health department, as you know, is in combination with Ozaki County. That's something we have to work with them to see if they wanna, you know, the offices in both locations, they just one work, or you know, we got a larger building on the other side of the town too, that could be a social capital, which these offices could potentially move to as well.
Yeah, so with that in mind, I guess the only concern I would have, obviously, we're talking about this building right now, but once we get done with this, we start looking at additions and what else we might wanna do. It would really be great to know, what are we doing with the UWM WC building? You know, do we need to keep the PAC? Do we have interest in, you know, I mean, there's so many questions that we may not have the answers for this year yet. In making our final decisions on what to do at this campus.
Correct. I was told they're looking at creating a work group for that as well. I'm gonna be pretty busy this year. I believe the treasurer's, Mr. Hankey, is gonna be on that as well, going forward. So I think that's why we're not too worried about getting the PAC conversation going just yet, because that conversation needs to happen too. And so they both need to go down the path near the same time and have those discussions in an open format.
Yeah, well, I believe there was discussions about everything south of 33, well, most everything in that PAC center, getting off and back into the tax payroll, right? So that would require us to do something up here, build a building to house everybody who's there now, but again, we had the discussion at one time, moving the aging disability, right, putting those at UWMWC, but if that building's going away too.
Right.
There's just a lot of moving parts here yet that it's kind of difficult to nail down exactly what we're gonna do.
Yeah, that's why we're not starting on the PAC discussion just quite yet, because there are a lot of moving parts that need to be worked on and looked at and viewed. I think from this standpoint, I think it's just important to look at this picture going, we have a lot of land in West Bend, and whether the PAC stays or comes across the street, you know, we still have a lot of land.
Yes,
That if so decided to keep the PAC, but there might be other opportunities of selling the 3.3 acre parcel just south of the PAC. There might be a sale to the east of the PAC, even if you keep it, right? So that's the type of conversation that that committee and the board needs to have. And like I said, all the other land that we have up there that we're renting out to a farmer going, well, do we need to keep doing that or not? And so I think with the master plan, we got shown going, well, we can finish jail expansion, you know, pretty much near the jail. If the PAC moves, it goes into a larger parking lot. The highway department doesn't need any more land to the south. We can move those salt sheds over to their current land going. Great, we've gone through master plans now with 2 different architectural firms, and all that land to the north was not touched.
yeah,
And so what do you want in the future? And, you know, how much land do we need to have in the future for future stuff that got a pretty good footprint right now going on?
right.
With
Well,
in future expansion could happen as well.
exactly. And then the other question is, and I don't wanna go too far into this, cause that'll be the other task force, I'll take this on, but it looks like there's some roadway access to Samaritan Home, maybe for deliveries or something that sits on county land there down in the corner. I don't know if that's something that you'd have to sell to Samaritan, or do they have easement rights to get through there at this time?
They have an easement right to get through there right now, right?
Okay, so So then they have to get into the conversation too, is whether or not they wanna acquire that portion so they can keep that drive, right?
Correct, and not shown on here is that the ball diamonds that you see there is its own separate parcel. So there's a Samaritan parcel and the ball diamonds are owned by the Little League. And so we didn't show every other parcel that's in there, but that's actually two different owners within there as well, so
Gotcha.
something we'd work with, but since we didn't know what we're doing yet down at that location, access points are key to developers and wanted to make sure we kept that access open for potential development, because we don't know yet what's going on. South of 33.
Okay, any other questions for this?
No, just, I would say thank you for having GIS put this together. It helps me just understand what we have.
Yeah, and I appreciate his time to look at the different acreage as well, so you can kind of get a feel for, versus just saying, we got 150 acres north of 33, that's a great number, but we don't have 150 acres of developable land north of 33, but.
Supervisor Gallus?
Make, continuing Supervisor Krebs, so we got this land, you said some of it may be developable, some may be undevelopable. At some point in time for policy, it would be good for treasury or deeds or whoever to give us an idea of what would that mean if that went back to the county tax law?
I think we covered a little bit of that when Elijah did a presentation on when did that PowerPoint presentation on if the PAC went back on the tax roll. I'm not sure he covered all the properties, right? But he covered the portion of south of 33, I believe is what he covered in that presentation, if I remember correctly. And so he did that. So I think when that committee or task force or work groups meets, I'm sure that'd be part of the conversation of, what does it look like when you get 17.7 acres back on the tax roll? Just north of the highway shop, for instance, or the 23.9, that's west of Schmidt Road, surrounded by the floodplain a little bit. So I think those are great questions that, again, we stress that in the master plan, we don't have a real vision for that. I think having that committee come together and creating a vision, what that looks like, whatever that may be.
Understood. Chairman Schleife?
Begs the question, the land north of the highway shop, do we need more land for the highway shop in the future, do you foresee?
I do not. No, I mean, if at some point in the future you decided to combine and merge the West Bend shop and Slinger shop into one shop, then yes. But both of those shops were built in 2002 and 2004, so relatively new. And it's nice to have a second shop that's right off the interstate and more serves the southwestern portion of the county. So I don't foresee that coming, and I did not come up during the master plan. We have room there for an extra salt dome. If you look just at the current salt dome, just south of there, a dome would fit in there that would replace the 3 salt sheds going away or across the street. So a dome would fit nice in there with the fuel island. We got plenty of storage to the north there for our topsoil stockpiles and clay stockpiles and stuff like that. We really moved a lot of our culvert inventory to that location to kind of utilize. So the only thing I would say is no neighbors are good neighbors. Because we are a 24/7 operation. Our trucks are allowed at points and they do back up with those alarms. And so just that when if we do decide and you decide to sell that land, to me, it's pretty obvious that the highway department's right next door when you build, but you'd be surprised if people don't see when they go and build a home.
And then they hear the noise and then the complaints start.
Right, and we've got a good berm there, and you can see trees there in the location, right, and but in winter we are 24/7 operation, not every day, but it happens. But no, I think we have plenty of room within our fence as long as our operations don't change significantly. If we went to something weird where we do the maintenance for every municipality in the whole county, I mean,
That's the
then,
new shared service.
but that's a huge lift.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure we're ready
I don't
to undertake that.
Not in the next 30 years anyway. Any other questions? Seeing none, this meeting will be adjourned, and next meeting is March 17th. Make sure you wear your green. Next meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.